Test it. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. This is Philip Wilkerson. Hello. This is a test. It's a test. And stop recording. Welcome to Positive Filter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career with a little self-help around the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope that what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that was real loud. Boys and girls, this is Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Filter. Today, I have a very, very special guest. Well, everyone is a special guest, but this is very, very special guest. I am joined by my podcast mentor. She don't know that, but she's dubbed my mentor, Jess, and don't let me murder your last name, Kupferman. See, I was close.
You were close.
I just call her Jess. And, you know, I'll just give a quick overview. Shout out to my friend Kara Stamper. We were at a random, like 2 years ago, at a barbecue, and I met her sister randomly for the first time. I'm blanking on her name. Kristen. And Kristen was like, "Oh, you got a podcast?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I got a podcast friend I should connect you with." And knowing me, I'm like, "Shoot, let's do it." Like, I always like to meet new people, but not knowing. She didn't tell me how big a deal you were in the podcast world. So I was just shooting random emails saying,
I don't think she knows.
I don't think most people think. You got that radio show or whatever? I'm
yeah.
Okay. They're like, yeah, radio show. So I just blindly emailed to, "Hey, my name is Philip Wilkerson. I got a podcast," which is, at that point, I don't know, still probably was trash. And you were so nice. You said, "Yes, let's meet." And then, I didn't, this is a lesson for the kids out there that do networking. Do a little bit of research before you blindly reach out to people. I don't know. For me, I kind of just do it because it helps me think everyone's on the same level. So you helped me, and then I went back after you helped me, and I was like, "Oh God!" Like,
it's probably better that you did it after.
She was on the next level.
Well, because if you do research beforehand, I mean, sometimes you like. You change yourself and your personality based on who you think the other person is. So it's probably best that you didn't do that.
I guess so. I probably still do it that way. I tell people though, people know me that the president of the United States, maybe not this one, but the next one, or the janitor, I talk to the same way.
Exactly, that's a
how
good
I live
thing.
my life. I just use what people that quote unquote have higher status than me. They get a couple more yeses, ma'ams, and sirs, but everyone else.
I don't want that though.
No, I don't want that either. So, but. As I said earlier, Jess is a host of She Podcast, and then I can list all the accolades, but just know that in the podcast world, she's it. And I've been listening to her show, but I wanted to bring this interview or this random podcast more down to just mentorship and some tips for the new podcasters. But before I go, why don't you give the listeners a little brief intro to who you are?
Okay. So I'm Jessica Kupferman, as he said, and I co-founded a group called She Podcasts about 5 years ago. My friend and I started a Facebook group for women who were trying to podcast. At the time, there were very few women who had a podcast, and there were some other Facebook support groups, but none that were just women only. And I do have a lot of men ask me why that was necessary. In the tech world, there were mostly men mentors, and they don't always give the same kinds of answers, especially about podcasting, which is, as Phil knows, so much work.
Yes.
And so when you have a hobby that's so much work, you want to know like how to cultivate a community or grow your community. Like when I say I want to grow my community, I want to know how to reach out to more people, not how to like double my amount of shows so I can have double downloads. And like those are the kind of answers I was getting. So we started our own group. It was about 4 or 5 women. It is now 13,000 women.
Sheesh. That's
podcasters.
like my bourbon group. Bourbon group. It's organic. I love that. And I love how you try to create a space on a need based on your identity. Quite honestly, it's the same thing. I think that, I listened to one of your episodes earlier, and I guess less power, but people of color and women kind of share a similar power thing. So I definitely took that notion from you and looked for spaces with men of color in the podcast world.
Good.
Or shout out to my frat. I'm starting, if you're a frat member of Alpha Phi Alpha, I started a group for alphas who podcast because
that's cool.
I think one of the main lessons I learned from you was about community and collaboration. And that's where I truly grew in my podcast from connections with you and just talking to people. I'm not the best at reading. I hate it. It's boring to me. I'm not the best at YouTubing and then going off of YouTube and figuring out on my own. I've learned organically how to get better at my podcast from people that are better at podcasts.
Yeah.
And just asking good questions. And so you and my podcast mentor, Dean Bakari, really took the time. I don't think people realize how much just having a simple conversation with someone that's starting out means a lot. And I took a lot of notes and I started doing the things you suggested, and it really helped.
Good.
And that's how I get better. And
That's
I think
great.
about the thing about the community that really helped. So when you started this community for the women podcasters, right? What was some of the strategies to say, let's build this community, and that's one strategies. And what was some of the rules for building communities? Like, don't come up in here soliciting, let's collab. What's
Yeah. So definitely there's no promotion. There was no promotion allowed whatsoever in the group. And there are so many groups that give you like a whole day to promote. What bothered me about it was that whenever someone was posting something about themselves in Facebook, that goes to the top of the feed, and
Yes.
then all you see is promotion. So from the get-go, we weren't allowed any promotion. We eventually allowed, we do a post that says you can comment here with your most recent
Yes.
episode.
I love that.
It's still not a promotion because there are probably many people in there that have social media services or editing services, and they're not allowed to talk about it ever. You can only post your most recent episode.
Most recent episode. I like
And then
that.
now Tuesdays we allow people to offer themselves up as a guest on other people's shows.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I've allowed people to do that because podcasters make the best guests. We always have a good mic. We know how not to interrupt. We have like sometimes or more often we have more developed sense of voice and like how to use the mic, and like I have the mic in front of me, so if I talk loudly like I normally would, it would blow everyone's eardrums out. So we make really good podcast guests. Also, over the years, we've had to develop some other rules. Like Elsie and I think when we first started the community, we kind of wanted it to run itself. She knows how to engage people in conversation, so she was constantly asking questions where everyone would answer to sort of create a feeling of connection within every member. But we didn't necessarily want to like make rules or be the hammer, but you end up having to step into leadership whether you want to or not.
Yes.
And so it took a while. We sort of had to push each other into like leadership roles because we were just like, no, I don't want to tell people what to do, but it was important.
Yes.
For example, like there have been certain times in recent years where political topics have been very hot, and as women, we tend to want to vent to other women about women's issues and things like that. And our group is huge. And so if you want to say something disparaging about this president or the last president, it just simply can't be the place for that. We can't be your women's group. It's a women's podcasting support group. And that has to be for every woman with a podcast, whether you love this president or whether you hate this president, whether you're pro-life, whether you're pro-choice, whether you are triggered by what's going on with Harvey Weinstein or not. Like, none of that can matter because every woman's voice is important. And so as difficult as it's been, especially recently, Elsie and I have had to say, regardless of our political opinion, like, we can't make decisions about, like, so our event that we're planning is in Atlanta.
Yes.
And we announced that 2 weeks before they made a lot of women's rights laws in Atlanta.
Yeah,
and
or
so
Alabama.
yeah, and there were a lot of opinions about changing locations. And not only could I not do that because I was contract bound at that point, but like that is making a stand about something that she and I don't want to make a stand about for the risk of excluding people from our group. Like, even though we both, of course, believe in women's rights, but there are people who would feel like that was leaning left or leaning right, and we can't do that. So so one of our rules is we don't talk about anything that's not related to the topic. And I think that's important for communities too. I mean, in your case, Alphas Who Podcast,
But we have men of color. We have men of color, so I think some of the same things go, like,
Yeah.
pretty much majority of the alphas that I know lean a certain way politically, right? But we also know that there's some brothers or some men of color that lean a different way. Maybe very small percentage, but I don't want to ostracize them from a podcast group. That's not the lane for that. And then also, like, we have brothers of different religious backgrounds and different beliefs on LGBTQ. I am very open. I think everyone should be loved, and I'm an ally. I'd stamp it right now. I put it on my sticker. But
yeah, same.
I want to avoid some brother in here that's like going to say some homophobic stuff, or on the opposite end, feel like they had to defend their religious rights if they're super evangelical or something like that. So I want to make sure I'm taking these lessons, is because in that space for men, especially men of color, we have these issues too, political issues, rights issues, all those things. But I wanted to use this lane as more of a collaborative space.
Right.
So I'm thinking about that too as I move forward, because I have a bourbon group with Northern Virginia Bourbon Society.
That's
and
cool.
we're trying to avoid that as well. Like, let's just stick to drinking bourbon. We're not going to talk about presidents, none of that, and we're not going to let you sell your side hustle in the bourbon group. This is about collaborating with what you like about bourbon.
I think in life also, the less you know about people's political affiliations, the more you'll get along, because those are always going to be things that divide people, but humans in general have so much in common.
Yes.
And those things are so small in the scape of our humanity. So that's another good reason to, I mean, I'm not saying like never talk about those things or not have morals or taking a stand about stuff. It's just that when you have, like you said, a collaborative space, it becomes less collaborative the more you voice opinions about things that we have no control over.
Right.
I
would allude it to anything where, okay, no mute. I don't want to mute anyone. It's just that this is not the lane.
Right.
That makes sense. So, like, for instance,
you don't go to an art class and start talking about writing a book. It just makes no sense.
Exactly. Or like you're on a football team. How if you're playing football, how important is it to talk about voting when we're trying to win a football game?
Exactly.
So, like, I'm pretty sure in all the NFL teams, there's people from all different walks of life, but their goal is to win a football game. Their goal is not to do that. Now, also, at the same time, I would not want to mute any of my players from their own political rights. Like to take a stand and kneeling and all that. Do you. But at the end of the day, do you with your platform, say what you want to say on your platform, but then when it's time to put the helmet on, let's play.
Right.
So if you want to kneel during the anthem, whatever.
Exactly.
It don't bother me, but we're going to play football.
Exactly. You just don't need to talk about it. So, like, we're just protective of our space.
Yeah,
and
or the space. Like, let's say that, like, for instance, Kaepernick, I think that he should have done whatever he does, and that we're not talking about that. It's not a political podcast. But he has his voice, but at the same time, he still played his job as a quarterback. And so I think with our podcast group, we have our voice, but let's stick to the subject of podcasting. Yeah. And then go to a general, which we do, go to your general alpha group or go to your general women's neighborhood group. And that's where you can vent that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Issues. You still have a voice.
Really anywhere else than a tech support group, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly. Because you're right. By doing that, eventually you're going to shut people down. They're not going to share the knowledge that they want to share. And they're not going to come into the group for the original thoughts of the group.
But also Elsie and I are really inclusive about all the things that you mentioned, and in addition, she's a woman of color, and we've had certain conversations that have come up where like a white woman has asked for clarification about something relating to women of color, and that becomes a whole thing too that we don't necessarily want to. I don't want to discourage like clarification, but also it's a very heated issue where, if the original poster is questioning something, the truth is that, we don't really have a right to question anything about what people of color think or are doing because we're not them. So we don't have to demand explanation. We don't have to demand consideration. And so I try to avoid those conversations too, only in that, like, I don't want my group to be a place where, I mean, yes, I want people to understand each other, but not demand explanation. That's a difference.
Also, I mean, maybe how the question is framed. Maybe it was like, I'm a white woman, and I'm about to have a person of color on my episode. What's some things I should avoid to say? And that would probably gear relationship issues or race issues more toward the topic of podcasting. Like, to be an effective podcaster, think about this. Think about frame of reference or how you say things or tone of voice or, especially if you don't know the guest. If you don't know the guest, so you could bring it back to the topic of the podcast, or like, I have a person on my episode that has a different political view. How do we talk
Right.
about politics in a tactful way that's good for the listeners or something. So
Right.
I think if it still has in the root of that question, or the root in the discussion is related to podcasting and podcast engagement, maybe that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just making that up.
People have asked me, like, do you have a limit? And I was like, I think Nazis are the limit. I don't want Nazis to talk in my group. Other than that, I'm pretty
I said that
open.
too. I don't want Nazis.
Because
I don't
no
want
hate group.
Yeah.
There's no hate.
white nationalists. I don't want. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be the same thing.
I can't think of anybody else I'd like to not have there, though. Like conservatives and pro. Like,
Oh no,
that's
conservatives.
not fair.
No, it's not
None of
that
that's
religious
fair.
across religious views. I think people that have a overwhelming mindset of hating someone else.
Yeah,
so
they're
that
not
could be
allowed.
that can't just be like Nazis. That could be any like overt
Well, they're
like
just the most well known.
or white nationalists or something.
Right,
I would
right.
say anyone that has like an overwhelming like. Okay, like maybe someone that's a Republican or whatever, different thing, and they're like, we just don't agree. We have different
Yeah,
lifestyles. That's not whatever. But someone that says blatantly like, I hate this group of people, and this group of people is inferior. I don't want to deal with those kind of people.
Agree. That's
You
not
know?
allowed. Yeah.
Not allowed. So sorry if you're trying to be an alpha, you can't join if you're a white nationalist.
I mean,
I'm
that
pretty
would be
sure-
an interesting man.
Hey, I'm a white nationalist.
To
but
interview.
I want a white nationalist. Can I join the alpha group and be an alpha?
That
which
must
is,
happen every day,
which
Phil.
is the first historically black fraternity. I'm pretty sure they're knocking down to become members.
I'm sure they are.
Sorry.
They're trying to infiltrate, like, secretly, right?
Yeah. I don't know, but that's
No,
crazy.
kidding.
Yeah, that might make sense, right? Some random white guy in our fraternity.
But really, I'm black. Let me in.
Yeah. Rachel Dosner, whatever her name is.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
She
Dolezal.
Whatever you say you are, you are. So I'm a white female.
Yeah. I know this isn't the topic, but, like,
Hang on.
is she or is she black?
I don't know what she want to be. I don't know. Don't. Man, she in that whole regards to that issue, I mean, she says she black, but then does things for black people to advance black people. Let her be black. I'm sorry, that's just my 2 cents. Now she was
She's
saying,
earned her blackness, though?
no, I don't know. I mean,
Can you earn it? Why
I-
can't you just be a white ally? Why do you have to be
okay, yeah, actually, that's
incognito?
actually the probably most appropriate thing to do is just say I identify as a white person, but I love to support black people.
I mean, the tanning and the perming, it's a lot of work.
It was imposter syndrome. I said, man, I don't know, not
That's
syndrome.
what I was saying, like maybe an identity crisis or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was strange.
She needed help.
She got really
I'm
far
sorry,
up in the ranks.
Yeah, NAACP. Shout out to her.
Yeah.
Well, at least continue to do what you're doing, Rachel. Support black people. All right, so let's see, that's 10. So you gave me some good tips about groups. I think one of the other questions I have, particularly for you, in regards to advancing your podcast, is I'm still in the growth mindset of my podcast. For instance, I have not made it, and I'm probably never going to make it, whatever it is. But pretend I go back to those times you had that first conversation with me, and we can go back in a time machine. What would be like if you had a limited time, like only 30 more minutes or whatever? What would be 3 main lessons you would give me or any new podcaster that you're like, this is what you need to do to start a podcast?
Okay.
That's why I put 3, because we can go on 4, 5, 10. but
Yeah.
3.
Well, actually, I mean, I thought you were going to ask me something different, which would be like, if we had a limited amount of time, like, what would be the advice that I would give you? But starting a podcast is a lot of times that question, there's a lot of tech involved in that answer. Like, I would get a mic and then I would get a host, but I'm not sure that's what you're looking for.
I'm okay. Let's look more for. You're right. That's right. Let's
Like-
look for more mindset things. The
Okay,
3
that's what I was hoping you meant. Okay.
Motivation, mindset things to reframe. How about that? Not equipment, but
Okay.
like just mindset. Like looking at the big picture, kind of things like that, or whatever.
Yeah, I think that when people ask me what the key to success is, for example, I like to sort of ask a question back, which is like, where do you see what's your ideal situation for where your life is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? Which is a really loaded question, but
Yeah.
but most people have an idea wherever they are in what they want their life to look like, whether it's to be higher up in the ranks at a company, whether they want to be a speaker, an author, a famous person, or a consultant or whatever. Because your podcast can help you achieve all those things, but in much different ways. So before you start a podcast, you kind of need to know what you want it to help you accomplish. Most people, if you're starting it so that you can eventually have advertising on your podcast, that's not really the best reason to start a podcast. That sort of comes like by accident, the advertising thing, from having like a large audience, which you can totally cultivate. But like for me, when I first started my podcast, it was for the purpose of having a speaking career. So, I mean, I'm not sure how well you or your audience believes in the law of attraction, but there is something about speaking out your goals into the world. And as podcasters, we do that a lot. We talk about, I want to be a speaker. And every person we interview, we say, how did you become a speaker? I would love to do that. And you say it over and over and over. And then all of a sudden you have speaking opportunities that you didn't know you were going to have.
I'm sorry, I'm grinning like a...
Yeah.
I'm about to jump in here.
Enthusiastically agreeing with me. Yeah,
Yes.
So go ahead.
No, I know I'm not going to cut off your one point, but that was... I'm going back in a time machine if I was. That was literally my only goal. Like, I wanted to become a more polished speaker, and I felt like podcasting for me was just practice.
Yeah.
I had nothing beyond practicing motivational speaking. And when I first started my podcast, I was doing YouTube videos in my car. I said, these are boring because I'm only doing it in my car and doing Motivational Monday. But I was like, you know what? I heard there's a lane where you can just audio record yourself. That's literally how I started a podcast. But that's why I'm cheesing like a cat. Like, I had no ambitions to make a lot of money and be sponsored by it. I just wanted to be. It was practice. This is me just getting reps
Right.
in regards to practicing public speaking. So go back.
Some people want to be thought leaders. Some people want to have a book. And so, if you want to write a book interviewing people about that topic, at the end you have transcribed episodes that you can turn into a book on some level. So really knowing what you want your life to be like in the next couple of years is a really great way to start a show, because then you can sort of steer it in the direction you want your life to go. And then, there's always going to be people who are like, I'm just going to start a podcast and see what happens. And that's actually what we did with the show that I have now, She Podcast. Like, we just started it just to see what would happen. But still in my head somewhere was like, I'd love to have a large community that could support each other. I'd love to have a community that I could travel to see in different cities in the country, because I never got a chance to travel. So a big part of having a conference for me is being able to leave my house and go see other things. And so even though I didn't necessarily mean to steer it in this direction, we did we did our show, and then after a while we would go to a conference. There was a new podcasting conference, Podcast Movement, and I would say, would you like to do a meetup? And we started having parties at these other conferences. Then we started doing workshops at these other conferences, and they were all little practice sessions to get to having our own conference. So it does kind of work out that way. If you just allow yourself to daydream a little bit about where you want to end up, I think that works out. Also, I think not worrying too much about the key to success. You have to really let go of your control of that. You may not, because podcasting is such a listener-based, fueled thing. So regardless of what you do, you're kind of at the mercy of other people. And if they're going to listen, if they're not going to listen. So overthinking at the beginning, like, I've had people be like, what's the best topic for podcasting? And it's like, what should I say? How about dog bathing? Like, I don't know. What do you talk about?
Someone that's dog care, that could be a whole episode, though.
There are dog care episodes, but I mean, I can't answer that for other people, because I know the question is, what will make me the most successful? And the answer is, the thing you dig is the thing that's going to make you the most successful every time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think letting go of what's going to make me the famousest, the fastest, you really have to focus on the thing you like the best, which kind of goes back to the first thing. And then
that's two.
That's two, yeah.
I try to make myself organized. We could if I gave you like 10 commandments,
I know the third one.
Crush it. Yeah.
The third one is really investing in those listeners that you're cultivating. You can't just do your podcast and expect people to flock. You have got to reach out to them. You have got to reach out to them on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And you can say "or" in any of those scenarios, but there should be more than one, because only about 20% of this country has ever listened to a podcast, but 80% of this country has Facebook and uses it on a regular basis. So if you want listeners, you have to go where they are, regardless of how you feel about those channels. Like, Facebook and Instagram are the two most popular ones. If you're not there, you're missing out on huge opportunity to sort of lead people into your direction. So there are a lot of podcasters that are strong hobbyists and they're educators, or and many of them are introverts. And so social media is kind of daunting. Yeah. But you can still be behind your little desk, but you have to sort of say, hey, this is what I'm doing. We're talking about this, and it was a really cool conversation. Check it out. If you don't say that, however much you want to impact the world, it's just never going to happen. I used to say it's like screaming into a toilet and then flushing it. Like no one's gonna, you can't just talk into the microphone and expect to change the world. You have to tell people what you're doing.
I love it. I was smiling because in that time machine, I definitely could have used that, but I see, but it's weird because now I see how I did that though.
Yeah, you were already doing that. I don't think I had to focus on that with you.
No, I think the mindset was I was doing it for fun. I was doing it for me. I was doing it as practice. I took a lot of pressure off. The only thing I got,
that does help.
The only thing I got the pressure was not in a matter of subjects. Subjects was straight. Topics was straight. It was more like getting better with equipment, and that's a separate topic. But, but I think
that comes with time too.
I think people say, "Yo, I just literally I interview my friends. You're my friend. Sorry, we're stuck with me." But it was literally like I would just say like, if I were gonna have a podcast and give a person a lane, let me just start with my family and friends. And then I would just say, hey, you want to be on my podcast? Mom, dad, whoever, aunt, uncle. And they'd be like, what we talk about? And then I was like, whatever you want, but as long as we make it a positive subject. And that was literally my topic every single time. So if one episode is about fatherhood, how do we, with a positive mindset. If one is about working as a trash man, how you're the most positive trash man ever. So I felt like I had a topic that can sustain me no matter what, because it was more about the mindset. And so I like that idea. Like I could talk about this with anyone.
Yeah.
And then in regards to the last point, I think just organically it was like, you're right. Like I just, when I first started, I was just like, hey guys, I got a podcast. And I would just share it all the time on Facebook. And some people listen, some people like. I look at my Facebook, I don't even care at this moment. I don't even look at likes. I tell people that now. I don't fixate on likes or interactions that much on my Instagram or Facebook, because what I've learned now is there's a difference between reach and engagement. Like there's mad people that just scroll and won't like it or click it or whatever, but they see it.
Yeah.
And so I realized for me to put myself out there, just put yourself out there. Don't worry about no likes and comments and whatever. The reach is what's more important. It's reaching people rather than engaging. You want engagement, but don't over fixate on it. So I thought about that too. Like I'm not a shy person, surprise, surprise. But I think that I was okay with putting myself out there. But I would say the last thing was I like that you helped me with was if I'm going to put myself out there and I'm okay with that, at least have a system. Like
that's important too.
So can you speak to okay, I am the extrovert. I am okay with putting myself out there. But how important is it for the early podcaster about being organized?
So, yeah, podcasting has a lot of moving parts if you want to do it correctly. The tech is often secondary because you start with what you can afford. But definitely having a system for how often you're going to put a show out, that's really important. Knowing that you're going to do that on a consistent basis, whether it's weekly or every other or whatever. And then you have to figure out you have to kind of work backwards from that system. If you're going to do it weekly and it's coming out on Thursday, you have to at least upload it by Wednesday night, which means you have to at least have the show notes done by Wednesday night. So when are you going to do that between Thursday and Wednesday? Well, Sundays you do this, and Mondays you've got karate, and on Friday you go to the beach or whatever. So you have to know that like Sundays is when you do your show notes, and Monday is where you're going to do the episode graphic, and then you're going to write it all on Monday, and then you're going to, I tried to, and sometimes your system is sort of a natural thing. Like I used to try and tweak it and be like, okay, my show goes out Thursday, so I'm going to do everything Tuesday, and I would block it in my calendar, and then it wouldn't get done, and then I would be rushing to do it the night before, and it just turns out that I enjoyed doing it the night before because it made it feel fresher to me. Some people like to do all those things the second the interview's over because it's fresh in their head, so they can write how they feel about the interview and then all the key things. They've taken notes. Like if you wait 7 days, you may forget about everything you've talked about. So it really depends on the person, but also how much marketing are you going to do? Because when you're doing show notes, like you kind of have to leave room for what you're going to write as a result. So if you're doing show notes and you have bullet points, you can turn those into tweets. You can make Facebook summaries. You can do an email from that. You can do blog posts from that. Like exactly what are you putting out here? Because it doesn't have to be everything, but you should think of what it's going to be in advance so that you're not just going, ooh, maybe I'll do this every week, or ooh, maybe I'll do that every week. It has to sort of be predetermined so that you don't lose your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. See, y'all. I don't have a video podcast. Good thing. My ugly mug's on this thing, but I'm smiling from ear to ear, grinning I literally am like the most cheesy looking dude right now because you're dropping such gems. But this was things that like, I don't know. I like that you said organically. Like it took me a very long time to get to it, but when I did figure it out, it's like it's made it a lot easier. Like being scheduled every Monday, Positive Filter comes out.
Right.
Get my show notes, copy and paste certain things that are
Exactly.
integral to the like. Every show note has a link to follow up or something like that. And now I'm just copying and pasting the old stuff and then adding new things about my guest and their stuff. It's just. I think for me, what helped me with you too was like saying, okay, I still have the notes. I pull out the notebook I got. I wrote notes. It was like, people look at their phone and have the Twitters have that scheduled. So it's just, I like how for certain people, they probably have that system. They're very organized. For me, it took me like a long time to get into a rhythm.
And me too. And actually, I mean, like before I started my first podcast, I wasn't doing regular emails to my list. I wasn't doing blog posts or anything. I started my podcast and I was like, okay, I'm going to have a guest on. And then because I had a guest on and she had given me an hour of her time, I thought, well, I really should promote it because it was a nice thing for her to do. And then once I did that, I was like, well, I have 6,000 people on my email list. Like, I should probably send them an email and let them know so they can listen to it. And then I was writing a little personal note before I would get to the podcast episode. And I'm like, well, you know what? This could be a blog post. And all of a sudden, I had consistent content every single week because of my obligation to other people. But it just also fit really well in with the schedule of having that weekly thing. Like I wanted to say something nice, and then that turned into I should probably tell other people, and that turned into I'm already telling. It was like I was already like, hey, this week I did this and that, and it was pretty fun. That's the blog post part, but it took me a while too. Like I was just doing it naturally until I saw my own rhythm, and I was like, oh, I can make content out of all these things.
I love that. One of my things I just picked out while you were talking. One of my things is, and it kind of, not say it irks me, but it's just so, it kind of, I don't care if a stranger comes up to me and says, hey, a podcast, it's always sad. Like I don't know why I get like in my feelings when like, I've had a podcast for like about 3 years and someone that's supposed to be my friend or something like that, it's like, oh, you have a podcast?
Does that hurt your feelings?
Oh, I was like, damn, don't you know me? Like I've been working hard on this. So, and I liked how you emailed your actual contact list of your friends. How'd you do that? Like, did you feel weird? Because I'm pretty sure, like, I have cousins and aunties and uncles that literally have no clue that I do this. So how would you introduce? Strangers, no problem. I could go talk to a stranger and tell them I got a podcast. How do you not feel weird doing it to family and friends?
I mean, it's not. First of all, I've had my own business since 2004, so I've been gathering email addresses for a really long time. They've just been stuck on this list whether they like it or not. Yeah. And there was a point in time in Facebook where you could pull all your Facebook contacts into Yahoo and then grab those email addresses. You can't do it anymore.
Oh, dang.
But it was like 1,000 people then. So that's how I started it. It was like 1,000 people. And so, yeah, like I sort of was like, hi, I pulled them into MailChimp or Constant Contact. You have to use sort of like an email marketing system. And I said, I'm going to start emailing people about what I'm doing. And if you want to not hear about it, you can just hit the unsubscribe button. Off you go.
Yes.
And so here we go. This week I'm doing this. And then it just sort of started. And there were people on that list who had no business listening or didn't want to listen, but just liked seeing stuff from me because we don't talk on a regular basis. And so that part was kind of nice. So yeah, you can totally shove your family and friends on that list because they definitely want to know what you're doing, even if it's not for them. Yeah. And so
support. I mean, I say the feelings part was like, it's fine for me to get support from strangers, whatever, or not lack of support from strangers. Cause you're like, I don't care if they listen or not, but you'd be like, dang, I've shot out all my family people and people never listen, and I know that's purely ego.
No, I agree.
It's purely trying to stun on my family and show them I'm doing something. I'm someone of significance.
Yeah, well,
but
so
I don't know. That's why I just kind of felt weird because I feel like I don't want to brag about what I'm doing to my family and friends, but it would be nice that they know I do stuff like this.
Yeah, I think people are sheep. If you don't show them where the grass is, they don't eat.
Dang, you be dropping all kinds of quotes. Is this probably one of them things I was supposed to be writing down so next time I tweet it out and say,
I don't know if that is a good tweet.
That's
a pretty good tweet.
I'm going to have to remember that. People are sheep.
It's true. That's why they have shepherds.
Oh gosh.
You got to be the shepherd. All right, now I'm getting biblical.
Yeah,
okay.
I literally was about to say
I'm
that.
not trying to be biblical
Jesus,
at all.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm
So
not.
like I have this show that I do right now. It's called She Podcast. It's for women podcasters. So I don't really expect people outside of that niche to listen. But
Yeah.
but I have a comedy show too. Or I was doing a comedy show for a while. I've put it on hiatus for right now.
You kind of funny.
I'm pretty funny, dude. Don't try and act like I'm not funny. So, but that hurt my feelings. Like, I don't care if you think I'm smart, but don't miss out on me being funny. Like, that's
So this commercial break is brought to you by Positive Filter. Yes, myself, because I have no sponsors. So if you really enjoy listening to this podcast, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Every review helps spread the message of this podcast to other people. And if you have a favorite episode, please reshare that episode randomly on your Facebook wall or through your Instagram stories. The more and more people share these episodes and get them out to other listeners, the better this podcast will do. So, back to your regular scheduled episode.
All right, so we're back from a random commercial break. I don't know where we're going to left off. I know we were dropping gems, but we're going to slice it together.
hopefully it was right around the ADHD part so that this makes sense.
It actually makes sense. But, I think we did get the first half with a lot of tips. So that's the most important part about this episode.
Probably.
But, I think from this random commercial break, I want to thank you so much. Use this platform to thank you so much for helping me.
Thank you.
Put you on a pedestal. I told you, and I'm telling you now, and I told my podcast mentor, Dean Picari, that I don't think people realize how important just your time to someone else means. And the reason why I say that is like, for some people, they think, okay, man, I'm just going to have a 30-minute conversation with this person, give them my advice. And it could be someone that like never does anything with a podcast. But on the flip side, you don't know that 30 minutes could have changed the trajectory of that whole person's outlook on what they're going to do. Dean helped me just get started and told me what Libsyn was and all that. You told me about just some organization stuff. And, it took me full 2 years to say, hey, look, I want to let you know, thank you so much. I know I'm sorry I didn't check in, but because of you, I got better, And so I try to take that mindset too. If someone thoroughly asked me to start a podcast, I do some generic copy and paste, like here's some steps to get started, because that's what someone gave to me. And then I'm open to say, yo, I'll help you out. And I'm not going to give them an hour of my time. I give them a little bit of time. And I say, they'll take it or leave it. I never know if they do well. Maybe some of these people you'll never hear from again.
Right.
And I take that interaction with my students every day. I think this one appointment, in career services, this 30-minute appointment, maybe this person will never come back to me.
Lives,
but it could be someone back home. They go home and they did this thing and they got their first job. And so I try to tell people I work on a mindset of gratitude. Like if I ever going to see that person again, I tell that person, you know what? Thank you so much. Honestly, you and Dean Picari, but like that was just these tips. I don't know if someone out there is going to listen to this random episode where we cut off in the middle. And I don't even know. Who knows? But they get the tips that they want. And like that's where I think about. That's what keeps me podcasting. And I think that's also what keeps me from worrying about the numbers and the data and the analytics. Is that maybe that one person is going to do something really well, and I helped them, and that makes me feel good about myself. So I want to say all that long spiel, the whole spiel to say, that 30 minutes that you took with me, and just help me and write the ideas. I got the notebook. I'm gonna show you. It changed my life. Like lots of things.
That's amazing. Thank you.
I got a bunch of pivots. Like so,
it's just one in many steps. I'm sure.
My wife changed my life too. Getting her when I was 18 years old changed my life. But in regards to the podcast world, you changed my podcast life 100%. And I will always listen to your podcast randomly. I'm not a woman. I love the women. Pay women the same. That's a random tangent, but I'm all about that. Pay women the same at work. I got bosses that I have strong women leaders. I call them my work sisters because they told me I had to retire work wife because they said I don't want to be married to you. I agree with that.
All right.
I was like, dang, like you can't marry your boy. So I got everyone, and then I can't call my work moms because they're like, I'm not that much older than you.
That's
so
not
everyone that helps me in my office as a female that's really giving me support, you're my work sister. Older sister, maybe sometimes younger sister. I'm the annoying brother.
I like that. And that's probably very true.
100%. I am the annoying brother, but I love you. I support you.
Thank you.
I encourage you. I'm listening to your podcast.
Me too.
I do an automatic. I tell people too. This is one of my things I do. I just screenshot every time I listen to a podcast and shoot them on Instagram. That's just what it's a normal. That's my habit. Mm-hmm. It take me 2 seconds to screenshot and type their name, because then it shares people's podcasts.
Yeah, that's nice.
All right, so we're gonna do what I call shot for shot.
I like that.
Shot for shot means we're not drinking alcohol, but shot for shot is you get to ask me a random question. I get to ask you a random question, answer honestly. But my shot for shot is just going to go straight from my new friend survey that I sent you. And I'm just going to ask one question off of that. I like the one right now.
Ask me as many as you want.
I'm going to just ask one, because I know you got a limited time. And I'm going to find it. One of my most interesting questions. There you go. If you can have your own biography, I love this question, what would you title it? And you just straight up said Alaska.
Yeah.
Why would your book be called Alaska?
I couldn't think of anything else. Because the Alaska, it's kind of long and a little bit personal. But I'm glad that you...
Maybe do the Cliff Note version and the less... do the Cliff Note version of why it's called Alaska, and maybe what you're comfortable sharing with the audience.
The Cliff Notes are... And you're welcome to ask me more about it, but it doesn't have to be like a whole nother show. The Cliff Notes is that my daughter had mental illness, and she would tell other people her name was Alaska. Her name was Emily. And so
it's dedicated to her, and it's about that personal
It's probably
connection.
about, it's I got pregnant with her very young. I changed my life a lot to be her mother, and then she developed mental illness, through puberty, and then dealing with that, and then she was a drug addict, and then she passed away a couple years ago.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's okay, but so I think Alaska. Honestly, I tried to think of something else.
No, that's
because I was like, I mean, does this really? It doesn't necessarily define my life, but it does in a lot of ways too. It's being her mother taught me a lot. Having her pass away has taught me a lot, and and both things have paved opportunities that I would not have normally had either of those things happen. So Alaska is just it's subtle, but does it make sense now?
I'm going to go on record. I'm almost crying, because that was probably the most powerful random autobiography title I've ever heard. No.
It's totally random.
I did not expect that, but I think that is, wow.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm very speechless. That's a very powerful story.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm a big empath, so don't call like I'm soft. I cry a lot. But
it's okay.
But
you're not soft.
Wow, that was a really.
I know. I know.
That's a really.
So
that would be a very powerful.
If you want to ask me another one, you can, and just delete this.
No, I'm not going to delete that. I think that's very powerful. How
Yeah, Alaska. I know. Not a lot of people would give you that. Some people would be like baller or whatever. But
other people have like the journey of a mixed kid. And then their whole autobiography about that.
Right.
How they had to deal with. I think your autobiography title tells a lot about you. So
you're
I would say
right.
now you have to write a book called Alaska. That's going to be like mad.
I never knew what I would, I have thought about writing a book about her and about that experience. And I never, until you asked that question today, I really never thought of a title or what I would call it. But once I saw the question on the paper and I typed it out, and I was like, should I put that? Is he going to ask me about that? Is that even a good title? Is this what I'm all about? Like, I went through all these questions because it's kind of an important question. And then I was like, well, if I say something else, it's not authentic. So I may as well just put Alaska.
That's how I go through my life. Keep it real deal, authentic. I think what I've learned too, and this is another tangent, but I've learned that I've made a lot of connections through other people, podcast or not podcast, when I kept it authentic and I showed vulnerability. Like, when I had a really hard time and I've been at my lowest low, and I said to someone else, hey man, I am not doing well. The other person say, yo, I've been there. I've not done well either. I'm like, dang. And then we become really close friends.
Yeah.
So in moments of vulnerability, that brings you tied together. And I really did not expect that. Now I'm like caught off guard. Like,
sorry.
No, because I think I
didn't mean to.
No, not in a bad way. I'm just saying.
Speechless you.
Yeah, speechless is me. But with that being said, and there's like in that story about that, there's things too. Like, I think in regards to my connection to my kids, I literally did not feel like I was a good anything.
Yeah, so imagine
being a good I thought the only thing I was good at is being a good husband to my wife and a good father to my boys. And so that really touched base with me too, like, that's when I do get a lot of identity from that. Like
Mm-hmm. You
I
do.
I don't.
When you have your kid at 21, you're pregnant at 21, and you've been I was her parent my entire adult life.
Yes.
I've been a parent my entire adult life,
it's
and
very
like,
powerful.
and also when she became mentally ill, like it consumed so much of my time and thought that when she passed away, I wasn't sure quite what to do with myself.
I can see that.
So I mean, it's not her autobiography. It is mine.
Yes.
Dealing with Alaska is mine.
Well, one, like I said earlier, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
2, as a parent, I can't imagine that because I love my boy so much. And 3, I do know that your identity is tied to that. One of my main things when I write out who I am or when I introduce myself, I don't say I'm Philip Wilkerson, the career counselor. I said Philip Wilkerson, husband to Maggie and father of 2 boys. That's that's what I carry on.
Absolutely.
That's what I carry first. So I understand that. So let's go. Again, I don't want to say on a lighter note. But
No. On that note, moving
yes.
on.
I think my second question is your favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, which is mine too. Why?
Oh, the food, I think. So first of all, I think that, Halloween is fun. Christmas, I'm Jewish, so that's not going to be my favorite. Although Hanukkah's not as fun as Christmas. I do like Christmas.
My father-in-law is Jewish, so shout out.
Yeah.
Mazel tov.
Hey. So I do like Christmas, and I do like Halloween, and I forget what, 4th of July. They're all really fun. But Thanksgiving to me is like, it's the perfect weather. It's the best food. Everyone's usually in a good mood. Everyone's tired afterwards. Like something about first of all, so my mother always prepared Thanksgiving, and it was always the same every year. And like when I met my husband, like they do the opposite tradition where they mix it up every year, and sometimes they have horseradish potatoes and like a Cajun chicken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, now I know why I like Thanksgiving, because you know what to expect every single time, and it's not special unless it's. People have Christmas like that. You have Christmas traditions. The Thanksgiving tradition was really important to me for some reason. So
I love it. Thanksgiving.
Is that your favorite or no?
That's 100% my favorite.
It is? Really?
100%.
That's so funny.
Well, here's the reason why. I'm a military brat, so I had no consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Some day would be like eating like at a Fort Belvoir cafeteria, hospital cafeteria. Some day was here or there. I didn't have no set thing, but I love food.
Mm-hmm.
And 2,
Same.
I like the aspect of gratitude. Like I like that was what the focus of was.
Yes.
Now, shout out sorry to the Native Americans.
It's the one time people appreciate each other.
Yeah, sorry that we try to over commercialize it and Native Americans got their land stolen.
That part sucks. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna lie. That's a shitty background.
Yeah,
for sure. I just said another.
Yeah, it's all good. But like the corn and all that and the little turkey, whatever, and they had the
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it was family. One of the things, we're together.
Yes.
We have good food. I like that. I like football, so we get to watch football.
It's an attempt to reach across the aisle.
Yes.
Right?
And
with your
slowly but surely, my wife grew up with a family like yours, with everything.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I had to adjust to was, hold up, we're not taking our plates and going to another room to watch football. Like, it was we and this is also I think a racial thing. Black Thanksgivings is huge potluck style. You get a plate and you just sit wherever you want to.
Oh yeah,
right.
I kind of like that though.
You get the literally.
I don't like passing the shit around.
No, someone. It don't matter. Someone has the plates. Someone has the whatchamacallit, the
napkins or whatever.
Napkins.
And
someone has the macaroni and cheese.
Oh yeah. I see. Someone brings the turkey. Someone brings
that.
It. Right.
And then
that's nice.
You go through the line and then you can sit where you want and then go downstairs and watch football. The guys watch football. But Maggie's family is literally like the
long
table.
Yeah.
Go around and say grace. So we try to mold that all right, we're gonna sit at the table and say grace. I'm gonna take my plate and go watch football, or I don't know. We had to both get used to each other's styles. But
mine's somewhere in between there. There's a buffet, but then you sit at the table.
I like that.
And then you say something. The person who's hosting. Yeah, but before and after. Yeah. Yes.
Right, I do that too. That's what I have to do.
But it's something about the food and the tradition that I really like. And also it feels like a more relaxed holiday. The other ones are really.
I like going around the table.
A lot of activity.
And I like when we always do every time. Go around the table and say one thing you're grateful for.
Yeah, I love that tradition.
And I say the most sappy stuff.
Me too.
So,
I always say the most sappy stuff.
Amen. Eat.
For my health, for my children.
I love it. Yeah, that's me.
For my house, for all my things. Yeah.
All right. So you have to ask me any question.
Oh. Okay, if you could have dinner with someone alive or dead, who would it be?
So can I do one? One's famous and one's chill?
Yeah, sure. Anybody. It can be anybody.
Famous person is J. Cole.
Okay.
J. Cole the rapper.
Okay.
I actually, everyone, I mean, literally,
Interesting
it's
answer.
pretty, Jermaine Cole is his full name.
Okay.
But the streets call him J. Cole. Like, no, I'm just like, the streets.
You
So
look very
corny.
street today, by the
Oh,
way. Your
my
plaid
big
button-down shirt.
Yeah, I keep it gangster, you know what I'm saying? That literally is my quote for everything. Like, who could you interview? Who could do this? I'm just going to say J. Cole every single time.
J. Cole.
J. Cole's my favorite rapper. The reason why he's my favorite rapper is because he went to college. He went to St. John's up in New York, but he's from Fayetteville, North Carolina. College educated. He's just like your normal everyday guy kind of thing, but he's actually an amazing world-class rapper. So I like J. Cole because of his, I say, non-traditional rap background, just being like the everyday kind of guy that's just awesome at rap. And like, I know I've listened to him talk and do interviews. He literally is someone you could just hang out with from high school. Just knows how to rap. So I would love to just hang out with him and talk to him and talk about high school and talk about school and college, but then talk about his career in music too. Because then he has that amazing professional side, but then he has that like, I lived a normal life side too.
Yeah.
I didn't grow. He doesn't have none of his, like, he even tells you rap songs. He doesn't have no songs like I'm selling rocks and sell crack and shot dead, well, bang bang, I killed you. Like,
Right.
He's like, literally, I was like a couple of his songs like, yo, I was in high school trying to get at girls and they call me corny. Like,
Yeah.
Like, it's normal.
That's nice.
It's a normal person. So that'd be J. Cole. Alive, dead, Martin Luther King.
Good
Shout
answer.
out Alpha. I have to.
What if he's a douche? Wouldn't that be terrible if he was like a jerk?
No, I know he's not.
Of course he's not, but like, wouldn't that be so disappointing?
There's a duality to everything.
Of
Like
course.
I read about him. You know that Martin Luther King was a big adulterer, had mad girls.
No, I did
mean,
not
did.
know that.
The FBI did that. They used to tape him, and they would send his tapes of him cheating on his wife to his wife.
Poor Coretta.
Yes, poor Coretta. And J. Cole even did a line about that.
That's horrible. I didn't
He's
know
like,
that. No.
No, but
That
it
wasn't
doesn't
what
take
I was
a-
referring to. I was just saying, imagine idolizing someone and all the
But that's
good
what-
they did in the world.
no.
Like John Lennon was a wife
No,
abuser.
No, so what I'm trying to say with that is,
But so yeah.
Martin Luther King, I put him on a pedestal still. He changed the world, but he's just a human being just like me. I humanized him.
Yeah, that's good.
And his wife did too. I'm pretty sure she wasn't
sure
very
she
happy.
did.
And
I'm
she
sure
stuck
she
with
did.
him, and she did all this. But also at the same time, she knew the lane. Like, this dude doing his dirt, whatever. But,
Yeah.
But he's also changing the world, and he's changing lives, and he's telling people to be better. So I'm not saying I'll cheat on my wife. I don't. But, I'm putting that out there right now.
He doesn't.
But I also use that as a mindset. Like, I'm not perfect. I have flaws just
That's
like
actually
Martin
a really
Luther
good
King.
point.
I have
I'm glad
flaws-
you said that.
I have flaws just like Martin Luther King, but I can also use my voice like Martin Luther King and change the world. So I would love to just talk to him more about being an alpha frat and just
I have
being
one
a
more
normal guy.
question for
And they
you.
said he was really funny too.
Oh, was he?
Like, I know I got the inside. I know the real Martin Luther King because I know about Martin Luther King, the alpha. They said that he was a jokester. He would like, I don't know if you know what the word frying is. Do you know what frying means?
Frying?
Joning on someone,
Yeah.
roasting someone. He
Yeah.
would roast, fry, whatever. He would roast his friends.
Yeah.
But he was good at it. Of course he was, because he's a master of words.
Well, and
So he
also,
would-
because smart people are usually more able to be funny.
No, so he was funny too. Like, there was stories where he would like literally get his ass whooped, and he would joke about it, because
Yeah.
that's humor. People use a lot of humor, so they say he was very funny, and I would love to just talk to him, and make jokes. So Martin Luther King would be my dead
Good
person.
answer. Okay, now next question.
Yeah.
This is my last one.
Yeah, that's mine too.
What is your ideal superpower? If you could pick one superpower,
Yeah, I already got that one too,
what is it?
because I'm a nerd. I love comic books.
Well, then you can also tell me
It's
which
too- it's-
superhero
it's-
you'd be if you
yeah,
prefer that.
No, because I want to
answer.
be myself. I want to
Okay.
be my
Invisibility, super
Nah,
strength.
I
You
love
do
this.
lifting.
I am a super comic book nerd, so I could go on a tangent about
I can't
this.
wait for your answer.
And I always think about this too. Like, if I was a normal everyday superhero, how would I just like use it in normal life, not saving the world?
Right.
It's two.
Okay.
Either it'd be incredibly fast, like the Flash,
That's a good one.
or
Get a lot done.
teleportation, like Nightcrawler. Either way, I would just like to get to places where I want to. in
Either
an
way, you're an
instant.
impatient guy.
Yeah, and I want
basically.
to get to where I want.
Either way, you have no patience for walking like a normal human being.
No, I
is
just
what you're
wanna
saying.
get there
No
and do
invisibility.
things.
You're not nosy enough to be invisible.
Nope. I'd be like, yeah, I'm about to go do this podcast. Run. And then you saw the sound effects.
I like the idea
Or
of
I
being
would just snap
invisible.
and be there.
I like
I would
the
never be
idea
late,
of being
'cause I'm
invisible,
always
but I
late.
think it would be a little bit lonely. And I do
it's
also
kinda-
like the
kinda
idea of super
creepy.
strength because I feel like I feel like I'm noodle armed, so like I feel like that'd be fun.
Nah, I'd just be fast. Actually, if you're really fast, the Flash, he punches with a velocity of crazy because you run really fast and you punch someone so fast with speed, it's pretty strong.
That's a really good point.
And he heals fast because his metabolism is fast. I go on a tangent. I know everything about Flash and his powers.
What about Thor? That hammer's pretty cool.
It's whack.
So wait, So you would be the Flash? So that's the answer too, right? You would be the Flash.
Nightcrawler.
Or Nightcrawler. Okay, got it.
But I wouldn't be them because Nightcrawler, I don't want to look like him. He looks all weird with the like blue skin and all that. No shade. No
girls like that.
Is that colorism?
Chicks like blue skin though.
No, I'm not a colorist. Blue is okay if that's what the color of your skin wants to be.
Yeah.
But I want to look normal and I just want to be there. Like there's a movie about that. The one that has Samuel Jackson. He's the guy that's trying to fight the people that teleport.
I don't remember it.
Point is, they were doing that and going anywhere in the world they wanted to.
Yeah.
It had the guy Hans Christian in it.
Oh, okay.
Hans Christensen.
Yeah. Christian Handerson?
Whatever, but he could go anywhere. He can go anywhere in the world, but there was a whole secret society that hunted him down because they told him that they couldn't have powers like that because it was unlimited, like you could steal from banks and stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are off the rails.
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a comic book nerd, and you asked the comic book question.
I did. I should have known better.
So we're at a good part of my episode. I think this is great. I think that I really appreciate your time.
Me too. Thank you.
I'm going to put this random commercial break in the middle. Hopefully the content's great. But I want to use, as I do with every podcast, I call this shout-outs and plugs. I want you to use this platform to give shout-outs to people you want to shout out and plugs. With these plugs, please let me know what these plugs are so I can put them in the show notes. So the floor is yours. Shout-outs and plugs.
First, I'd like to shout out to my husband and his family who will never, ever hear this episode. And then as far as plugging, I would like to plug, I have a conference coming up in October, She Podcasts Live. And the website is shepodcastslive.com. It's for women who are in any phase of podcasting, whether you want to start one or you've been doing it for a while. Men can come as well. It's in Atlanta, Georgia, October 10th through the 13th. And also we're planning it for next year in Baltimore. So
I might go to that one in Baltimore.
I would love that.
Can I show up even though I'm not a woman? You said that.
You may. Can. There are men that have bought tickets and that are planning on attending. If you don't mind glitter t-shirts, you're in business.
I am a feminist. But by saying that, because I am a humanist.
Well, also, feminism just means you agree women should get paid equally.
100%.
That's all it means.
I think, here's the thing. It's a catch-all, not a catch-all, but if you believe in women's rights, if you believe in human rights, you believe in women's rights, because obviously they're women, duh. It's like kind of like a decision tree.
True.
So I got on a tangent, like if I believe that everyone should be treated equally, thus if I believe women should be treated equally, I'm a feminist.
Right on.
That's kind of my logic. I don't know if that would
I love when men tell me they're feminists as if I'm supposed to be like, excellent.
No.
But really, it's like, if you don't believe women should be paid equally, then go.
Well, it's almost the same thing as someone. It's someone the same way as someone saying, I love black people. And then they're like.
Yeah, what does that feel like? Aren't you just like, what do you want? Like a medal? Great.
I dap them up. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a weird. Yeah.
I love black people.
So that's my
women.
plug.
I love women.
I would love for you to come.
I'm there. So we're going to put all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being an amazing guest.
Thank you for having me. It's been really fun.
This has been one of my most amazing podcasts. As I said earlier, I'm going to finish this off on a strong note that you have had a great influence on me in the podcast world. This is not me blowing smoke. This is me being very authentic and true. That your help, Dean Picari's help, people that have better podcasts than me, that give me time and give me some tips. My boy Greg from Young, Black, and Bothered. I'm shouting out him too. People that give me help, I pay it forward because I know how that felt. Good. And I appreciate you. So
thank you so much.
That's how I'm going to end the episode. We're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.